Yep. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Connecting the Dots. We have again back as our guest, deep inside the rabbit hole, David Weiss. What's
Hey,
going on,
everybody.
brother? Yep, absolutely. And my co-host, Philipp Druzhinin from Russia. And it's just like I know. I mean, what do you think, Philipp? What do you think?
Well, I'm specifically researching only 19th century because,
Yes.
if we're talking about the 19th century, that all these colonial style buildings, which are everywhere, so we can literally say that it was everywhere. But I agree with you that it wasn't simultaneous. It wasn't like one at a time event. So it's not a global catastrophe. It was intentional. So if it was intentional, it was targeting certain areas. And it was, proceeded step by step. So
Right.
I certainly believe it. The character of that reset is similar to what we have right now. When one country, gets on lockdown and people like disappear from the streets and they can perform whatever in that, certain area. So, and then they move to other countries. So, and that's going to happen. It's not, it's nothing new. It's the mud itself is a finest absorber of biological and nuclear waste and bodies itself, because you obviously bury a deceased person, right? For what? You bury him for not spreading the plague or whatever disease that the person had before he was dead, because you don't know actually. And that's why you have the term quarantine. It's connected to the word quarantine, and it's an Italian word, and of course it has connection to Sanskrit, which is Karanto, or 40. Actually, 40 days you have to be on a ship before you step on the sea, on the shore, after you were somewhere, in a sailing somewhere. So the sailor's supposed to be in quarantine for 40 days, and that's what we have in Russia. After the deceased person, we have 3 days, the little quarantine inside your family, so the people come and see nobody's dead yet, so we can come too. Then you have 9 days after the person dies, and so all the rest of the maybe tribe or maybe your neighborhood can come and visit the deceased person and take a word about him and something. And then you have 40 days also. So when everybody can come and, everybody's happy because nobody dies. So that's not a spreading disease. So this is just the reset technology, and everything's connected to what we have right now. That'll be long. As for what I think is just, there's a big misunderstanding that Tartaria was not the whole empire. It was just a part of it. So that's the last part of that empire that was, hanging on with this self-governance system, not democracy, the self-governance system. Actually, what they take from the self-governance system is what we know as democracy, all these ideals of democracy, but actually this doesn't work in our world. And the empire itself, what was called the Rus, or Midgard. So Rus or Ros or Rosh in different pronunciations. So that's why we have all these battles in Bible between the Duke of Rosh and the Gog and Magog. It's something from that. So this whole empire was called Rosh, and it's literally red bloods. So everybody who has red blood is actually local from this empire. Then we have the blue bloods who actually gained the control here, and what they did is made a war between the whites and reds. And whites is the so-called elites. These are controlled elites, and the controllers and themselves are the parasites. And I call them blue bloods because they have this cuprum OH, which is the copper dioxide in their blood. That's why we have this little blue color in the spectrum. And still, it's obviously trackable here, and we have some descendants and offsprings of those blue bloods, and the controls themselves, they don't hide. they share this information with the world, and everybody knows. And if you search that, it's not some type of conspiracy. They are not hiding. I have a video about this Crow and Ray Bradbury, which actually has this paradigm totally exposed, how it's working, and so on. So the Tartaria was just the last part of the empire, and Tartarians themselves are actually the miners. So this was like the miners' land, miners' wasteland, I would call them. And that's what we have, because the technology of Tartaria is very similar to what the Empire of Rus had. And that's why this a misunderstanding of calling everything Tartaria, but it's not actually everything. We have this group in Russia which is like totally bashing all these alternative theories. They call themselves scientists against conspiracy, and what they actually, they try to debunk everything. So, and including mud flood and all these constructions and stuff. You remind me this case that they started to make ancient vases, those beautiful vases from they did it from marble, so by hand tools, like drilling for 9 months. They, and then they messed up. It broke up. So, and then we said, why are you doing it from marble? Just do it from diorite, like ancient Egyptians had in these museums, and you show it as in official science. Diorite is the second toughest material. Why don't you do it from diorite? And they said, oh shit, we don't do it.